Hi, welcome back. We're here with another series. And we just want to say Happy New Year 2022, new track season. And we just want to give persons those flowers, still giving those flowers for persons who have paved the way and played an intricate part in the aim in track and field. When you look at from coaches to administration and the athletes. And today we are privileged to have Mr. Keith Tyrone Burrows, coach, statistician. Any track meet going on, he'll be there. Helping out. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Damaris and Philippa, for having me this evening.
Indeed. Good evening. Well, we're gonna get right into it. All the introductions out there, and I mean, we both know Coach Tyrone, for years. So Tyrone, you know a lot about the show, I'm sure so far. We're gonna just jump into it and ask you. You need to tell us, how you remember when you were introduced to track and field.
Oh, Philippa, my memory serves me right. It was actually after watching believe it or not, the 1972 Olympics as an 8-year-old on NBC, basically just watching all of these sporting events. And I was just fascinated by track and field, the runners, the jumpers, the throwers. But even at that age, like everyone else at that age, we did a lot of running and jumping and playing around in PE classes. So for me, seeing something as well organized as that, that really had me captivated. And then as I got a little older, 10, 11, 12, I really started studying the sport, just reading everything I can about track and field, the athletes, where the Olympics were, whether it's summer or winter Olympics, reading about the American sprinters at the time, the European throwers and jumpers. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of information readily available on the Caribbean athletes, because we showed a level of promises. We showed a level of promise and started winning medals, here and there. But then when you jump forward to 1976, for me as a 12-year-old, I watched everything. That was the Olympics that we call the Caribbean sweep. 2 medals in the one. We won the 2. We won the 4, and we also won the 800 meters. That was an incredible year. And for me, I got more into it. I got more into wanting to do research, reading. I would take, at the time, I was fortunate enough to be given an allowance, and I would take my allowance and I would go to the bookstore. There was a particular bookstore in an area called the Pawn off of East Bay Street, kind of in the back there. There was a bookstore there, and every time I got my allowance, I would go there and I would buy books and articles on track and field. So for me, it has always been a love.
Sounds like you were a nerd.
Actually, yes, I was, but I was actually one of those cool nerds.
That's good. All into the sport.
That's interesting. Was track and field news? The magazine was circulated around at that time in the Bahamas.
Yes, but no, but for me, I've had a subscription for track and field news since 1983.
Oh wow!
And until today. But track and field news been around since 1946.
Yes.
And I was right now you get you have your subscription and you have access to all of those old articles and all those old stats. And probably once a week or whatever, I go back and I look at how things was, look how people were performing. Some of the names you would remember if you because you would have seen some of those athletes now at the IAAF Congress.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So what was the most inspiring thing for you in track and field in your career?
In my career, for me, it's a number of things. I was a kind of like a volunteer coach in college, but when I came back home and I got involved in coaching through Laura Lundy, and Iram, who I'd known for a long time, and then through Eldis, and then Miss Lundy at the time, she was teaching at AF Adley, and she was coaching a lot of the female athletes, and and she entrusted them in my care to make sure they were taken care of, they were trained properly, and it became a labor of love. But for me, watching those ladies compete, and more so watching them get scholarships to go off, whether it's a D1, D2, NIA, it really doesn't matter, to watch people achieve their dream through sport, and knowing that you kind of played a small part in it. For me, that was one of my thrills. And then, when you get into, for me, then getting in being a coach, and then coaching the senior athletes, getting pulled into coaching Aram, because like I said, I'd known him for a long time. And then he had introduced me to LDs, and then I'd known Tim Munnings for a long time, because he and I went to college together. And then through him, I met Carl. And I always knew Sydney. I admired him as a junior athlete. People don't know, just to digress a bit, he was probably, I guess I was a track nerd. When I saw Sydney at one Carifta Games, you see a man winning a medal, or at the time, a boy winning a medal in the 400-meter hurdles, and then coming back and winning a medal in the javelin, and then coming back and winning a medal in the pole vault. I mean, you're looking at three, you're looking at running, throwing, and jumping. I mean, it was just incredible. He was an athlete you could never figure out. He was, and like I said, and just watching him, and then being able to more or less had the privilege and honor of inheriting athletes who we had touched and inspire. But for me, I liked, I traveled the world with the athletes on my own dime most of the time. And people don't realize, Tim Munnings, the director of sports, when we were in 2002 in Edmonton, he anchored the Bahamas 4x1 to a gold medal 21 years ago, running down Michael McDonald in Edmonton with a blistering ankle leg at the time at 44.13. And then even prior to that, working with Carl Oliver at the time, I was, he impressed me at the 2000 Olympics, being, people need to understand it's being a quarter miler, only running at like 46.6. And a couple of weeks later, going to the Olympics and running 3 spectacular relay legs at the time at 44.79, 44.8, and 44.8. To show that level of consistency, I was real proud of that. And then you had Ramon Miller. I worked with him off and on, and to watch him run down the 400-meter hurdle from Angelo Taylor, who, if anyone know anything about Angelo Taylor was the original beast.
Yes,
47 low in the hurdles, 44 low in the 400 meters, and he constantly ran second leg for the US team on the 4x4, running a lot of 43s. So watching Ramon accomplish that, that was a high level of being eternally proud, at the senior level. And then also a lot of people who know Iram and I took a lot of kids to a meet in Florida, and Iram suited up for the 100 meters and ran a sub 10 seconds in the 100, even though it was a win aided. But it was just great to see his name in 100 meters under 10 seconds, because Iram was always a fighter. He always found a way to make those relay teams. And even before that, he was able to represent the country at the CAC games and Pan Am games in the Open 100 and Commonwealth games in 1994, running against Linkford Christie. He and I, every now and then we get on the phone, and we pull up that video, and then also having the privilege of working with Elise after she came back from Atlanta. Steve Riddick was the coach, and I was I guess local advisor or local coach, and it was good to see she went down to Martinique and she ran that sub 11 seconds,
11,
and that
yes.
yeah, right. And that was a proud moment. I'm like, okay, well, I may have played just a little part, a little part of that. So, there were, so for me, those were, those were really good personal moments for me,
Correct.
Mm.
Correct.
you know.
It's interesting, Tamarius, I don't know about you, but that we have the succession of videos and talking to the legends as Tamarius refers to, persons like yourselves, for you to share about Sydney's accomplishments at Carifta, because he was one of our earlier interviewers. Now he has
Okay, yes.
he has a history of a lot of athletes, and I don't think a lot of people recognize how much he contributed to the sport of track and field here in the Bahamas in his early days and to so many athletes. But it's amazing for you to share now in your video about his span of athletics, how well he was and what he did. Javelin, pole vault, and then coming on the track and running as well. That's spectacular.
And Philippa also the national record holder in the decathlon and also won a medal in the decathlon at the CAC games. And I think it was 1981. So people don't realize the greatness of this man. Athletically, and plus as a coach, like I said, I'll keep saying it. I'm a track nerd, so I watched everything. In terms of the relays, Sydney always had the vision to pull these young men together and know what they were able to do. Because I remember at Northwest, the Iram Does and Bernard Young and Andrew Tynes and Randall Wells were in Puerto Rico, around a decent time there, and came down to Northwest. And Sydney, I think he had said that he had told them these guys are going to break the national record. And for a non-national team, they broke a 25-year-old national record that was actually set at altitude. And I think from then he really made us realize that we have the talent to compete globally at the time in the relays. When you look at Atlanta, people don't realize that we made the 4x4. I mean, the ladies won a medal, a silver medal in the 4x1, but the men cemented themselves as being, serious contenders or a serious team to look at. Making the finals in Atlanta. I think we finished 7th. Yes, and we finished 7th. And what happened in 2000? At the end of the day, we finished 3rd.
Yes.
And then 2004 was kind of an off year. Ivad didn't go to the Olympics. He didn't feel as if he was up to scratch, but we all know he was. But he was a former world champion, and he always, back then Ivad was like LeBron. We can only judge. He wanted to be judged at his best, but even when he wasn't at his best, he was still better than most.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And and then we went to then the other relays, we won some regional medals. For me, I liked, like we were in Brazil at the time at the Pan Am Games, and I was given the task of managing the men's 4x4. When I looked at it, and I think that was one of the first times. We took six athletes. I run 6 athletes, and we ended up winning. And that's Andretti at the time went for the hurdles, and I said no. He's here. I'm gonna slip him in the 4x4 heats. And people thought I was crazy. And he's in the heats, and I'm sitting in the stadium by myself. I don't want anyone behind me. I had my toes crossed, my fingers crossed, and I was praying. Was praying to the Lord, let us make the finals. Yeah, but my philosophy is that if he takes 6, my assumption is that 6 should be ready to run.
Right.
Let's stick a pin there, Burrows.
Yeah.
Let's stick a pin there. Just want to let our viewers know what all teams what club you inherited, and then what all teams you didn't have to pay your own dime, where you was
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which one you loved the best?
Okay. The team I inherited was the Bahamas Tigers from Coach Sidney Cartwright. That
What year was that?
at the time, 1996. Sorry,
Okay.
1997. Yeah, I think Sydney had left. And I guess we're still debating the whole history of the Bahamas Tigers who started it. But that's a story for another day. The teams. Well, let's put it this way. I have been either a coach or invited coach or on a coach's package to every World Championship since 1999.
Wow.
So
That's
I
a
was
lot.
yeah. So I'd say about five of them I was actually a coach, an official coach. One of those I was there on vacation, and then I was asked to coach because we were short. So suffice to say, I think I've done 10, and I've done two Olympic Games.
Okay.
But just going back a bit, Damaris and Philippa, one of the other things when I think back on it that I'm proud of, or in 1983, sorry, 1982, when I had graduated high school and I entered the College of the Bahamas, and I always liked running, and I remember I went in front of the president and put together a proposal for starting a track team at COB. At the time, Bradley Bain was there. So I guess she liked my smile. They had given me the funding to do a presentation, and I went before Livingston Boswick, uh, BJ, may he rest in peace, Chanel Ferguson, Pancho Raming, and some other folks there, and BJ, Dr. Nordich allowed me to speak and whatever. And being there, he made you feel so comfortable when you are presenting, and they were very welcoming. And then, back then you had to, your club had to be on a year's probation, so you had to prepare documents, constitutions, and the like.
Mhm.
But through it all, they still allowed us to compete. So for me, that really cemented in my mind. Hey, I must be really love this sport to go in front of these powerful men.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
And women. And women.
and
Yeah.
women. Chanel was
That's
there.
right.
She may or
Yeah.
may not remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a piece of history.
That
yeah.
definitely is. Definitely is. And also pioneers at now the University of the Bahamas, because that's
Yes,
where it started, in the old College of the Bahamas for sure.
Bahamas, right? Yes.
Okay. So I guess we know, are you involved in the sport today? And I think one of the questions that we want to know, tell us about how you became and how you evolved into becoming a statistician for the sport. We've already known that you're a nerd.
Uh, the thing about it is that I always spoke about the numbers, believe it or not, with Mr. Wells, Renwood's father. And he may not remember this. He and I were at some drinking hole or some watering hole, and we were talking about track. And he said, "Man, hey, you should run for statistician. You seem to have a love for the numbers." And that was it. So I researched it and I did it, and the thing about it is that for me it was easy doing it because back then every Friday, Bernard Newbold and I would go on the net and we would pull down numbers of who was doing what, and we knew what was going on globally. I had online subscriptions to one or two websites in Europe, and then one in for the Caribbean. I don't remember the name. We just had subscriptions, and we would be on the phone and we were saying, okay, yeah, this famous athlete just did this athlete just did this, and we just started doing our own self ranking. So for me, that's how it started, and then when I was elected as the statistician and speaking at the time, I think that you're speaking with Mr. Bannister, we just developed a plan to ensure that all the national records were properly organized. So we went back to doing qualifying standards based on stats. We went to ranking athletes and the like. Many times I've been to a Carifta selection committee meetings, and you could remember sometimes they would take 5 and 6 hours. I mean, it was just crazy. And then when we began to I guess organize it again in terms of having everything laid out in some sort of spreadsheet. We had the qualifying standards, we had the athletes who made it, so it became a no-brainer. And then we had a pity or mercy on those who were close, and then we just discussed it like that, and then we were able to show progressions of athletes, just in terms of stats and performance, to give us a better guideline that you can clearly explain to people, your thought process. And I remember in one Carifta selection meeting, we were in and out in an hour.
Well, on the point that you make of being the statistician, Tyrone, I know for me, and I'm sure many listeners would also query. So there is this building thing, and I remember Bernard very, very, because Bernard was another numbers person. And you can see, and he still actually, to me, contributes to ensuring that we know where all the Bahamian athletes are around
Right.
the world. And the question I have is this: where is this arsenal of, is it something that you can put your hands on? Where is that arsenal of history, of statistics for the Bahamas track and field? Because we know there's been website to a website to a website, but a lot of them are not really functional. So as you've spoken and you said that, you have these numbers, and yes, they're presented at ratifying meetings. So where can the average day-to-day person find that arsenal of Bahamian track and field history in numbers?
In pure stats right now, I guess probably on Bernard's jump drive or an old jump drive that I have, but for us it's actually not on a website right now. I don't know what's been happening with our website, but it's not. I mean, the longer you take, the more difficult it's going to be to build, because people are actually transitioning out of sport.
Exactly.
So right now, I would actually say nowhere.
Well, I know I will add. I know when I was treasurer, I'm just going to throw this one in. When I was treasurer, we built an entire website, a website that we'd actually used to have 2 meets. I think it was the junior and the senior nationals. Now, I think it was a bit pricey because, of course, the engineering of the website and all of that, for it to continue, I think the amount was a little bit costly, but it was a very well built website where factions and numbers and history and all of that could have been built into the system. So I think, just to encourage, because you are the statistician or you're still involved to that level, just throwing that out, that maybe we look at that, because we don't want to lose the history that you hold in your head and Bernard holds on a jump drive, and and then the tandem ramming have it somewhere as well on a piece of paper. We need that somewhere. I think we're now in a social engineering type of age where we can put these things in an arsenal that is hands-on and there for us. But this is about you, so I'm going to leave that back to you.
maybe just to throw something that maybe Coach he could help with a content manager, Freeman on that part. But like I said, that's a different, because I feel my sentiments exactly. I think we need that data. All that needs to be recorded into some database.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Into some database. But Coach, another thing, just even though we talk about the statistician rule, I just want to hear from you, even though we want to let persons know our athletes and all that, because they look at you as they look at the statistician as a threat. Just to put on it, what is the value in your mind of that statistician? If you sum it up in one sentence,
Well, it's okay.
Couple of paragraph.
That would be okay. Because what happens is that we have to be real. Track and field is a sport of numbers, based on numbers, and it's an individual sport. stats allow us to know where we are and where we are relative to our competitors' performances locally, regionally, and more important, globally.
Correct.
Okay, and then the other thing you need to understand about stats is that once you begin to get into it, you will realize that uh, some things, some performances that we are doing now that we think or that we indicate as being great has actually been done 20, 30, 40, 50 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
So we need to remember that. Okay, 1968, if you jump 29 feet in the long jump, okay then, 1968 is what, 50 years ago. If you run 43.8 in the 400, that was done 50 years ago. You run 19.8 in the 200, that was done 50 years ago. You run 2:56.14 in the 400, some events that can still win the meet. You see what I'm saying? So stats actually help us put things into perspective.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Excellent. Yep. Yep.
So
So,
as
okay,
we,
Nick,
go ahead, Philippa.
no, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, basically, if you look at the whole terrain in terms of Bahamas athletics, where do you see us heading?
For the well, for me, that's kind of mixed. Right now you have Stevie and Shanae. They make you feel good about what's happening, and then you have Padria and Devon, who's about to break through. Break through at that other level. But then after that, I think there's a gap. There's a gap that needs to be filled. I mean, Gaither's running well. She had made 2 global finals, so that's a push in the right direction in terms of the senior athletes. But we actually have a gap to fill. Like I said, we medaled at the time 3 consecutive Olympics in the 4x4. This Olympics we wasn't able to even field a team. The Golden Girls they did a lot of good running many years ago. We haven't really performed at that level since 2009. The men's 4x1, we had a glimmer of hope when the guys run 38.52, but we seem to have fallen off on that for whatever reason. We had the Frank Rutherfords and the Levan Sands. We need to get back to that level where we can actually put triple jumpers right into the finals at this point. We had Donald Thomas, a global medalist in 2007. But I think since then we have had some high jumpers in 1 or 2 finals. Now we have to get them back on the podium. We had the likes of Jackie and Laverne, who are perennial team members on global teams who have made Jackie had made finals in the long jump, I think at 1 or 2 Olympics. Laverne made finals in the javelin at a couple global meets, but now we are at the level where we should be able to move a little further. They set it up for us. Now the other young athletes have to prepare to bring it home. Jeffrey ran really good hurdles and for a short time, I guess, until injury hit. Now there seems to be a break in the 400-meter hurdles, even though Shakeem Smith, him and Andre Kohlberg were actually able to dip below that 50-second mark. But now the event has changed, 45.9 and then 46.1 and 46.7. So we have some catching up to do.
Yeah.
But but like I say, we have our highs, and we have our highs, and then we actually still have a lot of work to do.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, Tyrone, I think when we think about it too, we have a lot of athletes that are performing at a high level in college, collegiately.
College.
And the thing is, some of them are now going into their senior years. Some are in junior years. For me, I think that the gap is there. The only scary part about a lot of athletes transitioning out of college is, for some reason, sometimes there's a break or life begins, and choices of whether I stay into the sport or I come out of the sport. And it's because of funding. So I think a lot of what you've spoken about, and my question was, why do you think that it is that we seem to be not having that continuity in all of the sport, all of the disciplines that you spoke of, and Bahamian athletes being on the podium? And I think it's simply, a lot of it is funding, because in the heyday, I think we had more funding, Tyrone. I think, honestly, I think we had more government supportive funding, and that government funding has now, it's moved back for all the sports. So it's not just track and field, but I think we now have to go into a realm of finding that cash to support our junior athletes, or that transitionary athlete out of college into the pros. A Samson Cobra, for example.
Right, and looking at that, that's a real issue. The other thing too is that whenever right now, a lot of the athletes around the world, they are for the most part. Some are totally funded, some are self-funded. Funding is an issue, but the other thing we need to look at is that how committed are some of the athletes? You look at commitment and dedication. Let me explain something. This may be off, but I remember, and this really wasn't even a good thing. And I would say 20 years ago, whatever, and Eldis and Iram and Tim and Colin, whatever, they can attest to this. We literally had to break into the track to train. We had to jump the and it was bad. We had to jump the wall that was up in the baseball stadium to get in track to train, and sometimes you're training in the dark.
I've done it. I've done it.
You remember that,
I've done it.
That was
I've
a total disgrace. But we got through, and I would never want to see us having to go through that again. But the other thing too is that, and I remember working with athletes you said were transitioning, and Damaris, you all remember we used to have practice on a Saturday morning, and that was a hard practice. And you know what it takes to practice on a Saturday morning? That means you have to give up that Friday. You have to give up that Friday night. You have to give up, and that's sacrifice there. And for young people, it's I guess for some of them, hitting on that bump and grind in the club on a Friday night because you had a hard week. But part of it is sacrifice, and the great part of it is actually funding and facilities. When you're in the States or when we're in training camp, we go to the track, we walk 2 minutes to the gym, and you to be taking ice bath, and then we go home. Here, you go to the track, you have to find an ice bath, and then you have to drive 10 miles to the gym. And then you in a gym with a lot of people who just there profiling and trying to look good in a bikini bathing suit for the summer. So here, funding, facilities, commitment, it's actually a lot of things that's actually preventing us from being at our best. But then there are some things we also have to take responsibility for.
All right. That's good. It was a really interesting conversation, and as we close, Philippa, you have any final questions? But Burrows, we want to just thank you for joining us on this show, and we all persons get to understand you more in terms of your passion with athletics, even athletics.
Okay.
Definitely. Definitely, Tamarius. The only thing I would like to ask Tyrone is, do you think we'll have another World Relays back here soon?
Yes, and not coaching in the World Relays, but being a part of the technical team and working those hours, Pancho Raming and I, setting up the field, putting up fences, setting up a gym, ordering equipment, inspecting equipment. The World Relays was a great feeling for me. Honestly, I miss working those. Well, I'm married now, but I miss working those 16-hour days. Getting things ready for your passion, putting your best foot forward for the world. When the athletes come, and nothing pleases me more when the athletes come here, whether they win, lose, or draw. When they say,
Yeah.
"We had fun in the Bahamas. You guys
Yeah.
put on an excellent meet." And,
Yeah.
and when you speak to them, you don't know whether they were a gold medalist or whether they
Agreed.
bombed out the final. They were. It shows that we are able to do things. We are able to
Running
put on
sport.
a global event.
Yeah.
Everyone they always want us to have Carifta here. They all know they want us to have World Relays here again. Everyone's really pushing for the Bahamas games. We are actually capable just by volunteering and just having a love for the sport to do things and actually being able to pull these global events off.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure this evening, Tyrone, learning more about
Mm.
you. I mean, I've been involved in the sport with you for some years, but again, every time you talk to you or you talk to persons, you learn so much more about what they've contributed to the sport. And this was definitely a pleasure this evening having you here with us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being on. They already know I love the camera. I love talking about track and field.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed,
Thank you.
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you.
Ty.